Guys, so in today's video I'm going to be showing you some delicious tofu recipes. So a lot of people say that they don't like tofu, but I honestly think it's because they haven't tried tofu in a delicious way. Like, if you think about it, people who eat meat, like chicken breast, they're not gonna just eat plain chicken breast with no flavoring whatsoever. Yet people try tofu just plain and then think that's what tofu is, but it's not. There's so many things you can do with tofu to make it taste delicious. You can add spices, add sauces, cook it in different ways. I'm gonna show you all that in this video. I hope you guys really enjoy it. If you do, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below which one of these recipes you're gonna try, or if you've had any of these before. Let me know. Also, if there's any other tofu recipes that you want me to try, I would love to try them. I'm always on the hunt for new delicious ways to eat tofu and tempeh because it's a really great source of plant-based protein. But anyway, let's jump straight into the video. I hope you enjoy it and I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye! The first recipe for today is a pulled barbecue chicken. So I made this into a delicious sandwich and I highly recommend trying this out. It is so tasty. Anyway, the type of tofu we're using today is a firm tofu. This is the brand I typically buy from Woolworths, but I do really like the firm tofu by the brand Nutrisoy, which you can buy at Aldi, but I'm sure pretty much any firm tofu will do the job with all of these recipes today. I just like the firm because it has a higher percentage of protein because it's more concentrated, and also the texture I just find works a lot better in a lot of different ways of cooking tofu. So if you haven't tried out firm tofu yet, please give it a go. It's my preferred tofu. So all I've done here is grate up the tofu. That is the first step. And now we are going on to adding some spices in. So here I have some smoked paprika. This is a key ingredient because it really gives it a nice smoky flavor, which mimics the flavor of meat. Then I'm also adding in some chicken salt. Again, this is a really key ingredient because it gives that kind of chickeny element to the tofu. You can just buy this from Woolworths or any supermarket. Just check the ingredients, but most chicken salts are fully vegan anyway. It's just flavorings that have the chicken flavor. I also added in some salt and pepper, and then all of the tofu goes in, and you just want to stir that up until it's evenly coated with all the spices. Once it's all evenly coated, we're going to transfer that onto a lined baking tray. So I've just got some baking paper and I'm also spraying a little bit of oil on the tray, but that's actually not even necessary. I just decided to add in a bit today, but you can definitely do it without oil too if you would prefer. So just spread that all out nice and evenly. If you can, separate them slightly because as you'll see in a moment, they do tend to stick together, but it's really not the end of the world. And then just straight into the oven for around 30 to 40 minutes at 160 degrees Celsius. So once it is done, this is what it will look like. You don't want it to be burnt, so just keep an eye on it because yeah, we don't want to burn the tofu, but we want it to be nice and golden. And as you'll see here, they've kind of like stuck together and the texture has completely changed. Like it's hardened up, firmed up. There's a crispiness on the outside, but then it's also still kind of softer on the middle. So it's a really nice texture here. You could eat it straight like that as a little snack, but to get the ultimate kind of pulled chicken vibe going, we're gonna heat it up in the pan with some barbecue sauce. So the barbecue sauce I've used here, I'll leave it in the description box below. It's a really good one. I just got it from Woolworths. And you just want to coat it all nice and evenly. So I put in half a cup of barbecue sauce at the start, but then I added in a little bit extra just because I wanted it to be fully covered in that barbecue sauce. And that kind of gives it a bit more moisture and it takes out that kind of rubberiness of the tofu and kind of rehydrates it as well as giving it a delicious flavor. So that is literally it for the tofu. I've decided today to pair it with a bit of coleslaw in a lovely roll. So here I'm just preparing the coleslaw with some vegan mayo, super quick and easy. And then this is the roll I used today. If you haven't tried these rolls, would recommend. They're actually quite high in protein and they're really delicious. So it's a sourdough roll with seeds, which, you know, it's always great to get a variety of different things into your diet. So I like to add in some seeds and some different grains where possible. So here I had this delicious sourdough roll and I put some avocado on it because I love my healthy fats from the avocado. Then I've gone in with some of that coleslaw and finally topping it off with the beautiful barbecue pulled tofu chicken, I guess you could say. And then I'm just putting a little bit more barbecue sauce on top just for looks and a bit of extra moisture in there. But yeah, this is honestly so delicious. I would think, just like randomly has come to mind, you know how people love HSPs? I feel like this would be really good on chips. this barbecue pulled tofu. I should totally try that, maybe for another video. But yeah, this is really delicious. I honestly can't wait to eat it again. It was so jam-packed full of flavor, has a delicious texture, and honestly you really don't feel like you're eating tofu with this meal at all. So yeah, if you don't like tofu, definitely try that one out. Now onto a simple tofu scramble. So I've been eating tofu scrambles for, I would say, at least 2 years now. I love them. It's a great way to get in tofu and to get in a good source of protein into your breakfast or lunch. So here are all the ingredients, plus of course some turmeric. Turmeric is the key ingredient to give it that beautiful yellow color, so make sure you've got turmeric. All I'm doing here is adding in some spring onion and some oil to the pan, and then we're going to crumble in our firm tofu. So with this, you could use other types of tofu, but I personally preferred firm tofu because I feel like it just gets a better texture. It cooks really well, and I really like using firm tofu with my scramble. There are a lot of different recipes out there that use medium firm or even a mixture of silken and firm, but what I like to do is actually add in some plant-based milk to give it that more moist kind of texture. So I'm adding in almond milk here. I've added in half a cup, but you'll see shortly I do add in some more. I like to just add it in as I go and see kind of what the texture is. Here are all the spices that I've added in. The full recipe will be in the description box below. So if you need to go back and, check the measurements when you make this yourself, that will all be in the description box below. So don't worry about that. And as you can see now, it is getting that beautiful yellow color. And I'm going to add in some more of that almond milk to get it a bit more moist and more like the texture of scrambled eggs. So here you can see it's pretty much done. I always like to taste it and add in any extra spices I think it needs. So I added in a little bit of that chicken salt I used in the previous recipe. And then I also added in a little bit more almond milk because I just wanted a bit softer. And then this is the final product. Honestly, it's so good. You could add in a special ingredient called kala namak. However, I actually don't even have it myself, and I don't think you need it to make a really good tofu scramble. I think there's a lot of overly complicated tofu scramble recipes out there. And really when it comes down to it, it's just the tofu, some almond milk, and a few spices, and that's pretty much it. So nice and simple, this recipe. And then to serve it, you can do whatever you like, but I'm a big fan of olive bread. So I got this olive bread again from Woolworths, and it is so good. Like, highly recommend this olive bread. It's so tasty. And it's also sourdough, which is good because it has that good bacteria in there and it's good for your gut. Well, at least that's what they say. But yes, I'm just toasting up my olive bread here, and then I'm going to serve that with some avocado because I love avocado. And then finally my tofu scramble, and I topped it off with some chives just for it to look pretty on camera, but the chives do actually taste quite good with it, and it really gives it that traditional scramble effect. So yeah, definitely give this a go if you haven't tried out tofu scramble before because you've been, nervous or thought it was too difficult or too confusing. Please try it out because honestly, it's so simple. The addition of the curry powder also, I feel like, makes a massive change. When I started adding in curry powder, I just felt like the flavor was elevated and it just tastes so good. Anyway, onto the third recipe for today. We have a sweet and sour tofu. This is so good, and it is omnivore approved because my boyfriend had a bite of it and then he was like, oh, I want to eat that instead of my dinner. So he ate a serving of it for his dinner. So I can tell you that it is approved by an omnivore, and he actually chose to eat this rather than his meal, which had meat in it. So it's a pretty good indicator that this is a good recipe that you should definitely give a go. So all I'm doing here is chopping up my firm tofu into little squares. You could do whatever size you want, but I just thought the squares were nice. Kind of mimics a more traditional sweet and sour pork recipe. They kind of are usually little balls. So I've got little squares here, and then we're just covering it with some corn flour or cornstarch. So you just want to make sure it's evenly coated. So I ended up adding in, I think, 2 to 3 tablespoons here. You just want to make sure it has a nice coating on each of the pieces of tofu. And as this is a whole block of tofu, you probably will need 2 to 3 tablespoons. But yeah, that's all I did here. Just make sure they are evenly coated. And then it's time to fry them up. So in my pan, I just have some olive oil. That's it, just a little spray of olive oil, and then we're adding in the tofu. So you want to make sure you're turning them regularly so they don't stick to the pan. If you don't have a non-stick pan, you might need to kind of turn them a little bit more, but just adding in a little bit of olive oil as needed. Don't need to go overboard, just a little bit, and yeah, make sure they are nice and well cooked on both sides, and they should start to brown up a little bit, and then that shows that they're done. So that's it for that. Just take those out of the pan. And then we're going to make our sweet and sour sauce. So one of the key ingredients is pineapple juice and pineapples in sweet and sour. It tastes so good and it gives it that sweet, soury deliciousness. Anyway, I'm also going in with some tomato sauce, some soy sauce or tamari, as well as some vegetarian oyster sauce. So these all combine together to give that really delicious sweet sour flavor. Then I'm also adding in some corn flour or cornstarch and some sweetener. So I added in 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, and then I tasted it and realized it needed a bit more. So I added in a few tablespoons of stevia as well to just get that slightly sweeter flavor. You could add in something like coconut sugar or regular sugar or more maple syrup if you'd like, but I just decided to add in stevia today because that's what I had at home. Anyway, onto the vegetable part of it. So I just have 1 whole brown onion, a little bit of ginger, a little bit of garlic for flavor, and then some capsicum. I've used 3 different colors here just to give it a beautiful color, as well as the tin of pineapple. Once that's all cooked in a little bit, it's time to add back in our tofu and the sauce that we just made. And it's literally as simple as that. You just cook that through for a little bit. As you can see here, the sauce starts to thicken up. And that's because of the cornstarch that we put into that sauce. So this turns out to be a really delightful, sweet, sour, just an explosion of flavors in the mouth, guys. Like, honestly, you gotta try this recipe. I top mine off with a few extra spring onions and some sesame seeds, mainly just for show, but I do think it does add to the flavor a bit and the experience when you add those little garnishes on top. So I'm now serving myself up some dinner. I used a cup of rice on the side and had that with it. It was honestly so good. And this recipe makes 3 to 4 serves depending on how much you eat. For me, it's 3 serves because I love my tofu and I love my veggies and I like to load up on that. But if you wanted to spread it out to 4 meals, you definitely could. Just make sure you get a good serving of rice with each of those meals. And that is it for this recipe. Honestly, so tasty. The coating on the tofu with that corn flour, it makes the tofu have this really kind of like spongy but kind of crispy flavor to it, and it's like it's battered. Like, it's just so good, and the sauce is delightful. Like, would highly recommend this recipe. It's honestly so quick and easy as well. Like, this did not take me very long at all. I actually cooked my rice in my Instant Pot as well. So the rice only took about 6 to 8 minutes to cook, which is very quick. And the stir fry all up took, definitely under half an hour. Like, it's a nice, quick, easy meal. Anyway, onto the final recipe for today. I have a plant-based jerky. So this recipe is so exciting for me because I used to love getting plant-based jerky all the time, but it was always really expensive and pretty processed. So making it myself is literally a game changer. It's honestly, like, I'm just so happy, and I'm probably gonna make it this afternoon again because it's just that good. But anyway, it's so simple. You just have to cut up some firm tofu. You can cut it up into whatever size you want. I trialed a couple of different sizes here because I just wanted to see what worked better. Honestly, anything is fine. The thinner you cut it, the crispier it's gonna be. So I personally liked it, I don't really know how wide it was, maybe like a couple of millimeters wide. Definitely less than half, I would say like half a centimeter or less wide. And that was a good thickness. As I said, if it's too thin, it's gonna be really crispy, more like bacon texture. But if it's a bit thicker, it will be it will have a bit more spring in it. So I guess it's up to you. Experiment, see what you like best, but they both tasted good and I ate all of this. So I just put some spices onto the tofu. Everything will be in the description box below, as I mentioned earlier, and then into the oven for 30 to 40 minutes. So this is very similar to how we made the barbecue pulled chicken. It's honestly a very, very similar recipe, almost identical. It's just the way that you cut the tofu that changes the texture. So here again, like with our pulled barbecue chicken from the beginning, we are pan frying it with some extra barbecue sauce to get that flavor enhanced and to kind of change the texture to be a little bit more moist than before. So cooking the tofu in the oven really does dry it out. So you want to add a little bit of moisture back in through cooking it on the pan with a bit of sauce. You could do this with any type of sauce you like. I just decided to do barbecue today because this barbecue sauce is so good. But you could definitely do like teriyaki style. You know, you could even do like a sweet and sour jerky. Honestly, like whatever sauce that you really enjoy, put that onto your tofu jerky and it will taste amazing. And look at the texture here, like it fully resembles jerky. I even gave it to my boyfriend and he said it tasted kind of like jerky and he really enjoyed it too. I ate all of it on him and he was like, why didn't you leave some for me? Like that was so good. And I was like, sorry, I'll have to make it again. But yeah, as the other recipes were, this one is also omnivore approved. My boyfriend loved it. So, I mean, that goes to show that it's good because my boyfriend can be quite critical of plant-based meat substitutes and he thought this one was amazing. And share it with your friends, share it with your family, see how they like it. I'm sure they will love it. All right, well, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you took some value from it. Let me know if you're gonna try out any of these recipes yourself. I highly recommend the tofu jerky. Like, I'm honestly so surprised at how well it turned out. I have some left in my fridge right now. I'm literally gonna go eat it because it is so good and it's so addictive. Like, wow, it's just, like, if you try anything, try that. And also, if you don't have barbecue sauce or if you don't like barbecue sauce, you can try another sauce. Like, you can make teriyaki jerky. You could just put like some more spices on it and kind of just make it like a herby kind of jerky. Really, any type of flavoring that you'd like. It does taste really good with the barbecue sauce though. It just like adds like a moisture to it, which I really like. But yeah, it's so good and I'm so glad that I created this recipe because honestly, it is next level good. I used to love buying a plant-based jerky, but I didn't buy it that often because one, it was really expensive. It cost like $10 for a small bag of plant-based jerky. But two, it had quite a lot of additives in it. So making it myself is just like such a revelation and I'm gonna keep doing this. And it's great as a post-workout snack. If you don't really feel like a protein shake or something, you can just snack on the tofu jerky. Anyway, all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you have an amazing day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.